My mother's single most valuable possession was the engagement ring that my father gave her. It wasn't an easy decision, but she sold it to help support our family's new life in America. My parents were confident that they made the right decision to immigrate from Vietnam when I was 4. They believed that I would have better opportunities here, but life in America wasn't what we initially expected. Just a year after arriving, my grandmother was diagnosed with a terminal liver disease. The diagnosis was devastating, especially because our family didn't have health insurance and we didn't know how to obtain health care due to our cultural and language barriers. My parents would really struggle to fill out paperwork and to schedule appointments because of their broken English. I would remember kind-hearted receptionists who tried to help us, but they eventually grew tired and they referred my parents to others with less patience. When my father would call the Medicaid and Medicare office, the person on the other line would hang up while he was mid-sentence. To us, American society wasn't very welcoming, and we felt like we didn't belong. At our lowest point, my parents luckily met social workers and physicians who became advocates for our family and helped us obtain end-of-life care for my grandmother. As my parents and I continued to adjust to our life in America, I realized that the challenges we faced when seeking care for my grandmother were not isolated events. In elementary school, I consistently earned high grades, yet I was kept out of the gifted program. So one year, I decided to ask my teacher to nominate me. Her response was, "Maybe when your English improves, I'll consider it." In high school, as I was preparing to audition for the All-State Honor Choir, my choir teacher explained that if she had a bowl of grain representing everyone's talent, mine would be less than a fraction of a grain. What my teachers told me and the opportunities that they gave me, or rather the opportunities that they didn't give me, were a result of the assumptions that they held about me. These assumptions were based on the fact that I am an immigrant from Vietnam, that English is my second language, and that I was from a lower socioeconomic class. Assumptions shape our words and our actions. Luckily, I had the support of my parents, and with their guidance, I focused my attention on seizing the opportunities that I had to their fullest extent. In elementary school, instead of feeling disappointed for not being in the gifted program, I turned my attention to art, and I was one of 4 students selected to repaint my school's basketball court. At the honor choir audition, I stood poised, and I emerged as the only student selected from my high school that year. I continued to challenge the assumptions that others held about me. I became the first person in my family to attend college. I will also be the first person in my family to become a physician. On my journey to pursue the American dream, I realized that my story was unfortunately not unique. Through volunteering at free clinics in underserved communities, I came to an uncomfortable realization. The individuals that I met were subjected to the same dismissive attitude that my family and I had encountered. They too were labeled as less valuable and unworthy, based on their status as poor and uninsured. Their voices and even existence were ignored, as if the validity of their opinions depended on social standing. As I witnessed these inequalities, I began to think about how these labels could affect the health care that's given to individuals that are marginalized, and if this difference would result in a difference in outcomes. What I found through reviewing the research literature was unsettling. Researchers at Oxford University found that women in low-income groups receive worse care during pregnancy, with the most deprived being 60% less likely to receive any prenatal care at all. The study found that negative maternal outcomes, such as low birth weight, were mainly due to poor communication from healthcare professionals. The researchers called for a change in culture and attitude of healthcare providers towards pregnant women from lower socioeconomic groups. Other studies have also noted bias in care towards marginalized patients, and this resulted in less care being given and poorer outcomes. One study by Dr. Jack Hadley at the Urban Institute found that the uninsured were less likely to receive expensive procedures, yet more than half of them had abnormal tissue biopsies. These studies show that assumptions shape our mindset and our actions. And as a consequence, these individuals were given less care, support, and dignity. Witnessing the breadth of these inequalities through my own work really compelled me to take action towards social change. So I started by simply listening to individuals who are marginalized to learn more about their situations and ways that I could help. As they told me their stories, I was moved in ways that I didn't expect. I found myself relating to them on a much deeper level through our shared human experience. I have come to realize that perhaps one of the most powerful ways to eliminate social misperceptions of marginalized individuals is to empower them to put their moving experiences into words. This realization led to the creation of a nonprofit with fellow medical students dedicated to collecting stories of the uninsured, especially those that do not qualify for Medicaid. Their stories are heartbreaking. One 41-year-old man that I met has permanent vision damage and likely damage to other organs because his diabetes went unchecked for 14 years. Despite his poor health, he has managed to escape from homelessness, and he is now working full-time as a forklift operator. Another 51-year-old woman that I met was working full-time while going to school for nursing. She then started to develop symptoms of congestive heart failure, and over the course of the last 5 years, she lost her job, then her home, but she never lost her dream of helping others as a nurse. She is still trying to find ways that she can finish school. These stories are a reminder of the persistence, willpower, and hard work that symbolize America. There are a great number of people that have overcome enormous social and personal challenges to make significant contributions to society. Just think of people like Helen Keller or Albert Einstein. But how many exceptional people currently do not have the opportunities to express their full potential? The reality is that the talents of many extraordinary people remain unknown, hidden, and unused. Whether intentionally or not, our assumptions about the poorest and most marginalized individuals in society limits how much they can achieve. This ultimately hinders how much a person can contribute to society and society's progress as a whole. We can challenge our assumptions through the simple act of listening. This makes our assumptions vulnerable to different points of views. I'm currently seeing this transformation through my current advocacy work for the uninsured. Colleagues who were previously immovable on their position to expand options for the uninsured are now asking me about ways that they can help support the movement. Making our assumptions vulnerable can positively reshape our mindset and our actions. Assumptions are powerful, and assumptions can also shape the mindset and action of others and really become a part of who that person is. If you are told repeatedly that you deserve less, then that's what you will believe. And for me, I knew that my teachers expected less from me. And I worked and worked and worked to overcome their low expectations and assumptions. But even as I overcame these challenges, there was still that voice in the back of my head that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve the best. This voice has kept me from many opportunities throughout my life, including running for president of my high school student body, and it nearly kept me from applying for the Rhodes Scholarship. I was approached by my college professors a few times to consider applying, and each time I would tell them that I wasn't a good enough candidate. But they never gave up, and I eventually changed my mind. I interviewed as a finalist, but ultimately wasn't chosen. In this instance, I wasn't successful, but instead of being disappointed like I usually am, their encouragement boosted my sense of self-worth so much that I decided to apply to Oxford University anyway. And I was one of 14 students selected for my master's program. And that year at Oxford really opened my worldviews, and I think I will become a better physician as a result. Assumptions are really hard to get rid of. They're tied to our deepest beliefs and feelings. It's natural to have them. But I am going to challenge you to turn your assumptions into an empathy for others by simply listening to someone else. Put your assumptions aside for a brief moment and listen to their story. Connect with them. Your connection could positively impact his or her life. It doesn't take a lot to discourage someone, but as my personal experiences can attest, it also doesn't take a lot to lift someone up and change the course of her life. It takes 30 seconds. That's it, 30 seconds to send a word of encouragement to someone. In that brief moment, help that person become who he or she has always wanted to become. As individuals, we can choose to keep stacking the odds against someone, or we can make the decision to take away those odds one at a time. Be conscious of your assumptions and turn them into an empathy and passion for helping others to succeed in your everyday encounters. Thank you.